Hi everyone, this is Yasser from the SCML Organizing Committee, and today I want to introduce you to the newly released Supply Chain Management League Visualizer. This visualizer is designed to allow you to see what happens in a world simulation or in any world simulation in a tournament, but after the fact. So for now, you cannot run the visualizer while the world is being simulated. You can only run it on the logs that are generated by the end of the world simulation. As usual, this is an open source project and its home is on GitHub under SCML-vis for visualizer. And as you can see, we are open for pull requests. There are some ideas that we will be adding here that you can work on. We use Streamlit and Dataset for this system, and it's an alpha level software. So expect that you may have some rough edges, but we will try to resolve those over the following few weeks. If you have any issues using this software, please report issues or open discussions on the GitHub page. Okay, without further ado, let's just try the visualizer. The first step to use it is to install it. You can use either pip or pipx. Install the SCML-vis. Okay, it's currently installed on my machine, so I'll not waste time doing that. Note that it does not install SCML itself because it is not one of its dependencies. You can use the visualizer on a machine that doesn't have SCML installed. But to have something to simulate, we can just run SCML run 2021-1 shot. Okay. That will run one simulation of the one-shot game. Uh, Most of what I'll explain will work exactly the same in the one-shot game and in the standard game. Okay, now that we have that, we can SCML-V for visualizer or VIS or -VIS. All of these are just pointers to the same command, and you have to tell it what you want to do. So I want to see some simulation, so I'm saying show. This will start the visualizer. As you can see here, it's now asking you what do you want to run, which thing do you want to visualize. This option of adding default paths allows you, makes the system parse all of the simulations that have logs in the default paths under your home directory under Nigmas. Okay, we don't need that. So these are the last two simulations that we ran, and we will just visualize this one, the last one. Because it's the first time we visualize it, it's asking us to compile visualization data. Visualization data is simply a simpler form for the visualizer to use of the logs. Okay, so it's just done once. Okay, now everything is complete and we can visualize what happened in the simulation. You select data from the right-hand side here. You can close and open this pane, and then all figures are displayed in this area. Okay. So for data selection, you can select a specific tournament because the visualizer can visualize multiple tournaments at once. If you have that, you can select them here, but now we have only one tournament. You can select worlds. If you are visualizing a tournament, for example, you can choose a specific world from it or some of the worlds to visualize. But again, in our case, even if I choose one or all, it's the same because we have, I went to a different place, sorry. Let's set be all again. And now we have a single world. So it doesn't matter. Okay, make this all again. Then for type selection, you can focus on a specific type that you want to visualize. And to do that, you can just choose either one and select the type you want. So that's the type you want. Notice that in some cases, there are some exceptions when we are in the middle of our choices, and you can just ignore these exceptions. They won't do you any harm. So I'm just seeing the objects of this type. It's not the complete graph as it was before. If you go back to all, you see that the complete graph. This is the built-in seller, this is the built-in buyer, and these are the 6 agents that were in this simulation. Okay, so you can focus on a specific type, you can focus on a specific agent. For example, you can say, I want to see just this agent, so it only shows you what happened with this agent. Okay, again, I'm selecting everything. You can focus on a specific product. It's the same thing, so same three choices. All that's closed now. Let's close all of that. So everything here is all. You can also focus on a part of the simulation time. So here it's from step 0 to the last step. That's 0 to 9, actually. But I can say, okay, I want to just see up to step 5. I don't want to see the rest. Or you can, if there's a tournament, that may not be very useful because in tournaments, different worlds can have different numbers of steps. So it may be more useful to use relative time in this case. For example, I want to see the first half of the simulation. Notice that the numbers have changed, or the last half of the simulation. Of course, you can have both constraints at once. They will be ANDed. Now, to control what you see here, you need to do figure selection. There are three types of figures: networks, time series, and tables. So networks just show you these kinds of networks displaying what happened in the simulation. And the first thing it's choosing here is category contracts. So these are what's visualized here are contracts between different pairs of agents. And the condition is delivery. What does this mean? It means that it shows on each line the values based on the delivery step. But because we are choosing all steps, it really doesn't matter what you're choosing here. So it doesn't matter, just shift things slightly, but it's the same numbers, nothing changes, right? Yeah, nothing except here in nullified, nothing happened. No contracts were nullified, which is a good thing. If you find that anything is nullified, it means that some agents are getting contracts in the future, which can never happen in one shot. In this case, everything disappears. But if you choose anything that for which something happened, you'll get the same graph. This will change if you choose to show one step only. If you choose to show one step only, then this will show you what happened in a single step. So in this case, that's step 0. This means that between agent 05SA at 1 and buyer, there was a total price for contract. Notice that that's the edge weight. It's total price of 168 at step 0. You can change that. So for example, the edge weight, I can make it the quantity. So what was the quantity? It was 7. I can make it the count. How many contracts? This is 1. It's not showing because it's 1. Actually, it's showing but shifted. Yeah, as I told you, there are rough edges somewhere. But that's step 1. Notice that these are the exogenous contracts, so they will not change over steps. So in step 1, it's the same. There is 1 here. But now there are no contracts between 05 SAA at 1 and 00 DEC at 0. If you go back to step 0, there was one contract here. Okay, and you can see any step of the simulation, or you remove that and now you see the result for all steps. You notice that the edges here are weight, so they depend on the value you are putting here. So that's because this has a larger value, it's 10, and this is 1, this is wider. You can remove this if you don't like it. So they will all be the same. Okay. You can also look at for quantity or unit price, whatever you want to display with. You can also add node weights by either the final score. So by the final score, you should always ignore seller and buyer because these are built in. But here, this agent is getting 0.826, this is 0.862, and this is 0.89. So that is the winner. It's the highest score, it's 0.890, and that's the worst. Now, if we look at the cost, production cost, it gives a different picture. This guy actually had very low score, even though its cost was, no, that's because its cost was high, but not the highest. This had the highest cost, but it wasn't the lowest final score. Okay. So this is a type of network that you can see based on contracts. You can change that to negotiations. It will show you another network here, but now the network is dependent on negotiations, showing you the results of negotiations. Notice that there are no negotiations between the built-in agents and any of the other agents, right? There are no negotiations here. All negotiations happen in the middle. And here I'm showing the total price. If you choose negotiations here, you can actually see the individual negotiations. So between, let's say that I want to look when the seller was 02D this at 1 and the buyer was 08 GRS at 1. So that is this one and this one. How many negotiations did we have? Let's choose count to see. So we had 9 negotiations actually. And here you can see the 9 negotiations. You can choose any one of them and see all the exchanges that happened in this negotiation. Of course, you can make this larger if you want to focus on it, or smaller. Okay. And here I'm showing also the timed out and broken negotiations. You can just ignore timed out and broken negotiations if you want. So these are all, you will keep only the negotiations that lead to contracts. Okay. So that's the other type of networks that you can display. So contracts and negotiations. And for negotiations, you can see what happened during the negotiation in this table. The other type of figures are time series. Time series are very different. They don't show you any figures here by default. You have to choose which time series you want to display. First, you set some settings, like how many columns you want to have here. For now, let's change the settings here to the wide mode so we can see multiple figures beside each other. And for the theme, by the way, you can change it to light if you don't like dark themes. I like dark themes, so I'm using dark. And then I'll describe these later. For the X variable, you can have the X variable be either the step, the negotiation step, the simulation step, sorry, which is the day, or the relative time, which will be from 0 to 1. Again, relative time is useful when you have tournaments, especially when you have tournaments. Okay, now let's look at world statistics. And for each one of these, you will have the same choices. Either you display everything, some statistics, one statistic, or no statistics. And you can combine an overlay. I'll describe this later. But now let's choose one statistic. So that's the activity level by default. What are the other statistics? All of these. Okay. So the activity level seems that there was a lot of activity in the beginning. It went down, it went up again, then it went down. Okay. For to see what combine and overlay are doing, let's choose multiple statistics. So I'm choosing here sum, and I'll show, for example, number of contracts concluded and number of contracts executed. Yeah, these are the same in one shot. They will always be the same in one shot. So let's see, concluded, signed will also be the same. Maybe number of negotiation failed. Yeah, so that's a different thing. So there are two things here: number of negotiations concluded and executed, or concluded or signed. It's the same for one shot, and the number of negotiations that failed. You can make this larger if you can see well. Okay, and now let's change these things. So what overlay is doing is that it's overlaying these two statistics on the same figure. If I remove it, each statistic will go to a different figure. So now number of contracts executed is in its own figure, and number of negotiations failed is in its own figure. This is number of columns is 1. I can make it 2 to put them together beside each other if I want to. And so that's overlay. Combining will not be very helpful here because we have a single world. So I'll describe what happens when you change combine when I'm speaking about types or agents. Okay, so for now, let's move it back to none. I don't want to see any world simulations. Or no, let's just show some again because I want to demo something else. Anything, it doesn't matter much. Okay. If you add figure sections here, it will just add a section with the same name. So these are the world figures. And now let's look at the product statistics. And let's say that I want to see all product statistics. I think there are 3 of them. All of the product statistics now, the 3 sold quantity, trading price, and unit price are shown on the same graph because it's combine and overlay. Okay, let's now remove overlay. Now you have three graphs because there is one for sold quantity, one for trading price, and one for unit price. But each graph displays a single figure with some confidence interval. Okay, you can change, by the way, the confidence interval here. So that's 80% confidence interval, and that's 95% confidence interval. Okay, but so what is being combined here? The different products are being combined. So if I remove combine as well, now we have one value for each product. So the sold quantity for product 2 and for product 0 and for product 1, each one of them is independently displayed. Okay, so that's what combine is doing. It just combines different values of this variable, either product, wallet type, or agent. And overlay is just overlaying the statistics. So by changing these, you can control exactly what you want to see here. All of these figures are based on the statistics, long-term statistic for different things, wallets, products, types, and agents. Let's close all of this, and let's look, for example, for types. And let's say that we want to know how each agent type, the score of each agent type. So here I chose only scores as the only statistic, and it's combined and overlay. So it combined all scores from all wallet simulations for all types. It's a single figure, and you can see that that's the whole tendency. Everyone's losing. That's how it looks, but not everyone's losing the same way, right? So if we want to see that, we can remove the combination. Now each type will be displayed alone. So that's the score for decentralizing agent. As you can see that the greedy sync agent lost the least, and the greedy one-shot agent lost the most. Okay. Okay. So again, you can just take a bigger picture here. Notice that they didn't start from the same value because that's the score at the end of the step. So that's the score after step 0. So from the beginning, there is some, these agents started to lose early, and these agents didn't lose that much very early, and that's going the same every time. Okay. That's for per type. You can also do the same per agent. So you can just see what happened for each agent independently. So again, I'm choosing here the balance, the score. Yeah, no, let's see the balance, and not combining. By the way, overlaying will not make much difference here because it's a single thing that we're displaying, right? So this shows us for each agent what was the balance of each agent over time. As you can see, these three agents are the agents that were at level 1. They started with a higher balance and started to lose, and these were the agents at level 0. You can notice now that agents at level 0 have much higher variance in their scores, right? This may be an interesting thing if it repeats in multiple worlds and tournaments. Okay. So these things focus on the statistics, but if you want to see what happens in specific contracts, again, you can go to the network displays like we described before, but you can also go here and look at the contract statistics. The simplest type, let's look at the contract statistics per type. Okay, let's just show one thing. Yeah, concluded count, that seems okay. What is this? Agent instance figures, that's agent statistics, none, just to focus on display. Okay, so this is a concluded count over time. So there were like some contracts here, lower number of contracts, and the last step, the lowest number of contracts. That's what happened in general. Sorry, that doesn't change anything. Yeah, we are here in the contract statistics. Let's just remove the combination and overlay just to see a clearer picture and make it bigger. So what is this thing showing us? What's being displayed here is each pair of agent types. So system and decentralizing agent type, the number of concluded contracts between them. This will be always 0, right? Because there are no negotiations between system and anyone. But between decentralizing and greedy, you start to get some number here. Like there are some contracts. There's always one contract at every step between one of these two types. Okay. You can also look at other things like the concluded total price, for example. Okay. Here, you can see pairs of agent types. What if you want to focus on a specific type when it was a buyer? So you look at the buyer types and say, for example, I want to see one thing, and the thing is, yes, let's say concluded count, and don't combine or overlay. Okay, let's see everything. Okay, see, so these are all the figures. They show you the delivery quantity, the concluded unit price, the delivery total price, everything you may want to see. And you can, of course, make any one of them larger. Here, as you can see, that is the buyer type. So for when each one of the agents was a buyer, what was the delivery total price? Okay, over time. None. And it's the same for everything else. So that's simply the kind of figures that you can see here. And that's what you can do with the show command. Let's go back to our terminal. How to close that? With Control C. Now you closed it. Another command that you may want to use is SCML Explorer. But for this one to work, you have to give it a specific location for the log files. You can do the same for show as well. You can give it a specific location. But for Explorer, it's a must. You must give it a specific location. So to do that, we need to know where is our simulation logs. Where are our simulation logs? Let's go to the home directory under Nigmas. That's where we keep all the logs by default if you don't change things. And if you go to VIFM, if we just open it, these are the logs. These are the tournaments. These are the logs of the warlords. Okay. And what are we simulating here? We are simulating SCML one shot. These are the two warlords that we just saw. And if you open them, these are the logs that we visualize. And by the way, under this _vis data is the data that the visualizer compiled in the beginning. Actually, this is a very nice data set. And notice that there is an SQLite data set as well, which is what we will use for exploration. Okay, so we need this address. How to get it? Let's go cd logs SCML / SCML 2021 shot / any one of them 10. Okay, that's the last simulation, and we just copy this address here and we go SCML Explorer and we give it the address. I want to explore this. This will use the excellent dataset library, which creates a SQLite dataset and uses it to display a local web interface from which you can explore your data. So let's open it. Let's go here. That's closed now, and let's open this one. So this is dataset, and these are all the tables you have. You can open it. It will show you what are the tables, and for each one you can see all the fields. Let's say that we want to go to the agent statistics, for example. So these are all the agent statistics that were saved. You can see for each agent there is, you can sort by name, for example, and for each agent you have a score, the wallet, and the tournament, the type of the agent, final score. This is a score per step. You can see here the steps change 0, 1, 2, up to 9, because simulation by default were 10 steps. You can use this to apply some filtering criteria, or you can show some graphs. So let's see, for example, let's see the balance and the score. We know that that should be a straight line, right? So show me the score versus balance. Where is balance here? And for the color, just use the agent type, and for the size, use the final score. So, and make a scatter diagram. Yeah. So this is for each score, for each balance. You can see they are like lines, but not exactly. Can you know why? And you can make it a line chart if you want. You can make bar charts out of that. So these are displays. You can edit the SQL, so you can actually run SQL statements here. That's the default SQL, but you can do other things. You can apply group bys here. You can apply any SQL statement, and from it you can see anything you want on these tables. You can also do joins and see things in other tables as well, and you can save the resulting data. Okay, so that's how you explore using Dataset. And that's it. That's everything I wanted to show you today. And hope this